What's going on, Omnibuddies? Mitch here, and today we are doing another Omnibuddy overview. What are we looking at? We are looking at one of the first Omnis from this publisher. We are looking at Rat Queens from Image Comics. All right, so this book I have been waiting for since forever. I have been hearing nothing but good things about it. There have been tons of trade paperbacks and other editions that have come out, but I have been impatiently waiting for Image to finally collect the entire thing in one book. I didn't think they'd actually do one book. I thought it would be like two oversized hardcovers or something like that, kind of typical Image. But here we are. They have done an actual omnibus from Image Comics. Absolutely incredible. And I finally got to read this fantasy book. Super cool. Let's find out why. All right, so here is the Rat Queens Omnibus. This comes to us from Image Comics. Here's the shot of the spine. It is a flat spine for those of you who care. And here is a nice shot of the back. This does retail for $125 USD. And I believe the print run was $5,000 if I remember correctly. So not a huge, massive print run, and Image. It's kind of a up in the air toss-up if they are actually going to reprint a hardcover omnibus. We'll pop off this. I did get a damaged copy from OPB knowingly, not that they sent it to me. I bought a new one and then they sent me one. So I know mine's damaged, but you got this nice little band of some of the main characters on the front of the hardcovers here. Really nice bind. Really good quality. I know I did a little bit of a stretch, and then I took some photos, and then I read it, and you get a really nice eye hole, no loose page signatures. These are the signatures, as you can see when they're all connected, where they all connect in little groupings. That's a signature. Yeah, but really good quality bind overall. Holds up nicely. So you got some really nice end paper here. I always appreciate when you get character art on the end sheet, on the end papers, and it actually continues from here, continues on over here with some of the main characters. Pretty cool. I've never actually seen them do that where it kind of continues off of the page from one to the next. So really cool, really fun. So this comes to us from Curtis J. Weeb and Ryan Ferrier, illustrated by Rock Upchurch and a whole host of others, Tamara Bonavalain and Marco Lesko on colors, lettering by Brisson and Ferrer. Again, sorry if I'm screwing up names, because I always do that. But yeah, so a ton of people on this. You got a ton of stories in here, over 1,000 pages basically 1,000 pages of story, and then you got a fair amount of extras in here. So really cool. You start off right off the bat with Meet the Queens, the Rat Queens. You got Betty, you've got Dee, Hannah, and Violet, and you do meet some other Rat Queens along the way, but these are kind of the main staple. I mean, honestly, a couple more get added pretty quickly, and you are with them most of the time. Pretty great. I really had a ton of fun in this story. So if you are into D&D or fantasy books and that kind of stuff, you should really love this, especially if you're into comics and D&D. That's Dungeons and Dragons, if you don't know. If you don't know that, but if you are really into those types of things and you don't take it too seriously, like I have a couple campaigns on D&D that I play with some friends, and we have fun. We do, stick to the rules and all that kind of stuff, but we also have a lot of laughs, a lot of joking, a lot of like, could we do this, and really pushing it with our dungeon master and trying to really push it and have some fun and laughs and be a little crazy along the way. If you are like that, this book is for you. It's definitely all about the Rat Queens, all about some really powerful, strong female leads. So if you're not into that, well, this probably isn't the book for you. And also, if you're not into bad language, drug use, if you are sensitive to nudity and sex, and especially gore, this book is not for you. It is definitely NSFW, not safe for work. I will try my hardest to not show anything too crazy in here, but I really loved the art throughout this whole book. It's pretty dang consistent, and the characterizations are really consistent. They don't go changing too much. There's a lot of story arc in this book, and you are hit right off the bat with some dark bad guys, and craziness is happening, and obviously a lot of gore that is happening. I'm not going to go too much into all the stories because like a D&D campaign, there is a ton of story, a ton of arc, characterizations, character development that just weaves in and out of this 1,000-page behemoth of a story. And you know what? I'll say first off that the first 50%, so the first half of this book, was absolutely phenomenal. Loved every page. Super cool. I'll just flip through it while I talk. Maybe I should be a little careful as I'm flipping through here because I don't want to have to take time to blur stuff all the time. But the first half of this book, really cool. There is... they go questing, they're trying to make money, so it's very, very traditional D&D, going on adventures, getting side quests, all that kind of stuff. But these ladies love their sex, drugs, and rock and roll type situations. They love their men, they love their women, and they definitely do all that in this book. So maybe a little bit too much, in my opinion, to the detriment of this. And it does get a little bit to the point of maybe occasionally here and there being a little bit over the top with it, and a little bit like, okay, we get it. And you're kind of beaten over the head with it. But overall, ton of fun, and doesn't really, really take it over the top very often. Yeah, so very fun. You know, they're all sharing a house and questing and going out and partying when they finally make some money after successfully questing, and then obviously blowing it all nearly right away. Okay, we'll skip that page. There we go. And pretty quickly throughout this, you start getting deeper into the characters, which is super cool, super fun. You start getting all the backstories, which is very D&D, and they start coming into play and how they react and how they work together and all that stuff. Super fun. And then you are hit with a couple new characters throughout the way. Very cool. But what happens is one of the Rat Queens has a past, obviously, and she starts, you know, because of her past and because of her characterization and who she is, does get herself into a bit of trouble along the way. And basically, Rat Queens stick together. There are dragons, super fun. And you know what? We'll keep going. Not there. There we go. Woo! Anyways, super fun story. And the first half base of the Omni basically does that, you know, warms you up to the characters, warms you up to the story and who they are, and then really sets you off onto the main quest. And basically what happens in the first one is one of them, you know, is dealing with her evil self and dealing with who she is and her past. A couple of them have that issue. Religion comes into play, and, you know, drug use and their pasts and, you know, poor choices they've made in the past really come into play. But what really does is this whole first half of this book follows that major sequence with one of the Rat Queens dealing with that and the fallout from that. Now, the second half of the book was, in my opinion, good, but not... it gets a little dicey there. Does get a little... has a little bit of a lull. After the first half happens, there's probably, I'd say the 50 to 75%. So the, you hit the first half of the book and then the next quarter of the book. So the 3/4 of the book right there. So I guess by page, it's almost 1,000 pages. So kind of the 500 to 750 page area in there is a little bit of a lull. And I'll say that when they do start jumping around, it does get sort of disorientating. You don't really know what's going on, and you kind of got to pick up the pieces along the way, which is a little frustrating. Sometimes you're like, man, I was following this really cool story, and then all of a sudden it jumps to this really strange thing. And that is definitely what happens after the first half of the book. It makes this big jump, and it's pretty jarring. And you're like, okay, what's the fallout? Well, you are dealing with the fallout, but how it happens is a little bit jarring in what I expected. So I guess going into it knowing that a very unexpected jump and kind of solution, and the last half of the book is dealing with the fallout of that choice and the solution and how they went about solving the problem of the first major arc of this. So then the second half, the first half of the second half, so that 50 to 75% is kind of setting it up. And then I will say that, the last quarter of this book, the 75 to 100% of this book, maybe page 750 to 1,000, whatever you want to say. The last quarter of this book really kicked it back up a notch, and it is so cool how they actually go about solving some stuff and dealing with some issues. And it does a couple time jumps and a couple interesting things along the way, where it's really fun to see. And so it kind of does a really far time jump into the future with a lot of the characters, and they are older, and they are dealing with where they left off as adventurers and where they left off as friends, frenemies, enemies, all of that stuff along the way. Really, really great way of ending it. I really enjoyed how that all happened. And there really wasn't, at least in my mind, I didn't catch much story left kind of untold. Like there were no like loose ends or anything like that. So I had a ton of fun because it wasn't just, they told the main story, but they left all these threads untied. They definitely tied up most, if not all, of the loose ends. So I really enjoyed it. We have 1,110. So they do some fun things at the end, some really funny like volleyball type scenes, very, very like interesting stuff. So they do some fun one-off stories at the end that don't really add much, but they're just kind of a fun telling of some of the characters and things like that. And mage sitting, girls' night out, they do bedtime stories, really funny stuff, really interesting stuff, the Absent King. So they kind of just play around at the end for, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, 100 page, maybe like 50 pages or something like that, 40 pages. But then you have a ton of great stuff at the end. You have all the cover artists here, and you can see this. It's nearly 100 pages of cover art in here. Really interesting, good cover art. And then let's get through all this cover art here. Let's see. Come on. Yeah. So then you have some of the sketchbook material here with all the different artists and who they, what page numbers they were working in and all that. And then, so you have your initial concepts to final pieces and costume palettes, character studies, some sketch cover art right here to kind of lay it out. You have layouts for paneling and all of that. Really cool stuff. I love seeing pencils. That's one of my favorite parts, actually. Like, I love ink, I love color and all of that, but seeing the penciling that's my jam. I love seeing the pencil art, so that's super cool. And I love seeing these major layouts like this where you can kind of go through and see kind of the overall high level walkthrough of an issue. Super cool. Yeah, so this is the thumbnails for issue 13 in here. Really cool stuff. You got a ton of different sketchbooks for a ton of different artists. Love it. And you know, there's a ton of artists in here, but you know what? Except for the stuff at the very end, those like last 20, 40, whatever pages where they kind of play around and do these weird offshoot fun stories. The art is really pretty consistent. It does change here and there, but it's not like ultra jarring or anything like that. It does change up a little bit, but overall, like, okay, it got a little bit thicker on the lines and a little bit darker, or it got a little bit more toony and cartoony or something like that. The palettes got a little different or something, but it's not very jarring along the way. And then you got all these covers here for a huge portion of them, which is super fun. And then we are back to it, to the end sheets and paper. And there we go. There it is. A little overview of a big image book, Rat Queens. All right, so that was a quick overview of the Rat Queens Omnibus. Like I said, I mean, the art is super good. The story's super cool. There was kind of that middle part of the story that was a bit of a lull, and there were a couple points in the story that, you know, it kind of jumped around a little bit and kind of it was a little bit jarring because it was sort of out of nowhere, and then you kind of had to kind of reacclimate yourself to what was going on, especially with the time jumps and the like universe type jumps. But man, if you love D&D or like some deep fantasy fiction, this, especially combined with like crazy comedy and not taking itself too seriously, this book is absolutely for you. Like I said, the story does pay off in the end. It was really great. The first, I think, probably half of the book was excellent. And then it kind of had this, maybe the third quarter of it, you know, the 75% at that kind of marker in there somewhere, was a little bit of a kind of like everything kind of settled, dust settled. You knew something was going to happen, and then boom, it hits again, and it definitely pays off. So I kind of had to push through, but man, I read this book and maybe over the course of a week, and I took a pause here and there to read a couple other short books too. So it didn't actually take me super long. Actually, I think it was like 2 weeks, but I read a few books in there too, and you know, kid's sick, wife's traveling, I'm busy with work, and so definitely pushed through, and it was really good. I gotta say, the binding on this book was very impressive for one of the thicker books I've seen come out of Image. They definitely hit it out of the park with binding and doing some really great paper quality. Absolutely loved it. I picked up a damaged copy because I'm cheap and I don't care too much about that. But you can definitely grab some pristine copies over at Organic Price Books. You can use code Omnibuddy for $2 off every order. If you're ordering 4 or more books, you can use Omnibuddy Ship It Together for 5% off your entire order. But you can use tons of other creator codes out there. Support all those channels. Support my channel if you feel like it. But definitely go out there, pick up this book if you are into some fun, interesting, doesn't take itself too seriously fantasy books out there. So definitely super cool. Again, not safe for work, definitely not safe for the kiddos. So if you're sensitive to a ton of gore or nudity or sex or drug use, definitely a lot of that in here. So, you know, take it or leave it. But that's it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notification, do all those things. But the most important thing you can do is comment. Let me know in the comments what your favorite fantasy book is when it comes to graphic novels. All right, that's it. Take care. Stay cool.